Hello, my name is Alex Butler. I'm an independent consultant who does digital transformation. I've got a long history in corporate life. I've worked for some of the big names like BT, I've worked for the government. I started life in advertising. I'm a marketer by trade. So that's right in my DNA, and I guess that's what gives me a kind of customer focus in the middle of all of this sort of technology. It means lots of things to lots of people, and the way I describe it is that it's more of a philosophy rather than something specific that you're setting out to do. So a common misconception about digital transformation, for example, is that you've got a piece of IT hardware, or that you need to replace, or your current IT structure is not working very well, or you feel that your employees need to be better at social media. Those are all part of it, but actually really it's about kind of way companies are reinventing themselves, and digital gives them a sort of vehicle for setting out on that journey. I think the retail industry has really grasped digital transformation. They have to. It's ever more important in a very competitive world for them to be creating really exceptional experiences, and those are what the retail industry calls omnichannel. Pretty much everywhere their customers are, they need to be too. And the interesting thing about the retail world is that traditionally it's been very short term in its thinking, and this is forcing the industry to think very, very differently about where they're headed and where they want to be. So they're looking at it from both the point of view of addressing the current platforms that they work on, but also actually right at the customer end. And because the return on investment for you, if you like, from their customers is so immediate, they're doing some incredibly innovative stuff. So I'd certainly look at the retail industry to see, kind of where it's at really in terms of digital transformation. But that said, I think I've pretty much seen most industries starting to look at this. I mean, I work in the public sector, for example, where you've seen massive transformation enabled by digital technology, and even the not-for-profit sector. The not-for-profit sector has been slow to start looking at digital transformation, but actually even they've realised that whilst they don't think they've got competitors in the traditional sense, that it's just as important for them to stay relevant. I think digital transformation is very hard for a lot of senior leaders to get their heads around. Quite often they'll say to me, I don't know about technology, I don't understand this, I don't really get it. And I think the first thing that I would say to reassure them is that most of us of a certain age and at that level in an organisation are not digital natives. It's quite normal to feel that the pace of change and the decisions that you have to make are not the things that you came up through your career learning how to do. So I found, for example, that the kind of senior leadership courses that I would have done throughout my career are not really equipping me for the kinds of decisions that I'm having to make. There are a few characteristics that you see a lot in successful, digitally fit organisations, and they're not the kind of things that we were used to in the old hierarchies when we were coming up through the ranks, and the sorts of things that you expect leaders to be able to do now are to foster collaborative ways of working. So the kind of traditional silos of IT, of marketing, of of HR, those are very blurred now. And the employees that you've got coming into your organisations just think that's all a bit ridiculous. And of course digital technology has enabled us to work in very, very different ways. So leaders need to be comfortable with that. They need to see themselves as facilitators of conversations, of collaborations, rather than people who need to know absolutely everything that's going on. And alongside that, the kind of decision making that leaders need to make, it needs to be much faster. It's not good enough to have to expect your employees to go through a 5 or 6 point sign-off process for an invoice or a new hire. That's going to mean that you can't be as fleet as foot as you used to be, and or you need to be, and I think that's a very, very important kind of learning of digital transformation. I've read umpteen articles about who should be leading the charge on digital transformation, and I think the answer is that if you're a senior leader, you're leading the charge. The CEO buck stops with him or her, but they very much need to be visible in this. The thing about digital transformation is, pretty much like any other large-scale transformation, it's hard. I quite often say at the beginning of a project, why are you bothering to do this? This is going to take a lot of time, it's going to involve a lot of investment, and it's going to be very challenging for the organisation just trying to deal with the business as usual. So I think that the important thing to remember is that as you're going through, and just to help steady the ship. So that's the most important thing that you can do. The other thing about transformation is that, of course, it challenges our accepted ways of doing things and ways of working, and some people aren't going to like that. Your job as a leader is to, as I said, steady the ship and keep your eye on the prize. I think the fantastic thing about digital transformation, as opposed to any other kind of change process, is that it allows you to keep, it gives you the flexibility, if you like, to have really outrageous and ambitious visions of where you want your organisation to be. That's your role as a leader. Many organisations, when they're setting out on the digital transformation journey, look at the scale of it. It starts by, we should probably replace our CRM, and then you lift the stone up, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I would embrace that. As I said, it's a great way of taking the opportunity to completely reinvent and reimagine your organisation from the top. But at the same time, you need to accept that you can't do everything all at once. So I always think it's a great idea to treat this as a proper programme, get some project managers and programme managers in and properly plan it out. You'll find actually that some things, some relatively small things, can give you an instant return without actually spending very much money on it. I always think it's a good idea to start with some quick wins. And in fact, in many of the projects that I've been involved in, we've set up a little digital lab right at the beginning of the project, which is a really smart way of giving your employees an opportunity to play with some of the new technology, the new ways of doing things, and it starts to make them feel that they're part of that change and that transformation. So I'd start with that. Identify some quick wins. People will start coming along with you, and it makes it much easier to keep things going when the going gets tough. The first thing that I would say is that it's always good to get an external view from people who've been involved in this kind of thing before. I think you can outsource some of the legwork. I absolutely don't think that you can outsource the real strategy and the vision for it. That's got to be something that you as a leadership and your teams have contributed to and feel that is part of your own future. So a mixed economy by all a mixed economy in many ways, but not completely outsourced. That would be my recommendation. I think you need to see digital transformation as a road trip rather than a destination. So if you think that it's going to end with a new shiny content management system, it won't be. What you'll find is that you start doing some of these smaller things, and they provide a catalyst. And it's a bit like a domino effect. So it starts and then it goes on. And some of my best moments in my career are those when I've gone back into organisations a year or so after we've started the project, and I see what's being catalysed by some of those early quick wins that we did, and how people are working very differently. They've attracted a new kind of talent to the organisation that they didn't have before, and just some of the ways of working have completely changed, and the effect that it has on people, I think that's one of the best things.